Kevin's a Silicon Valley innovator and serial entrepreneur who's been at the forefront of AI development for over 25 years. He's previously been named Inc. magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year and has delivered several TED Talks and holds 94 worldwide patents. He's pioneered the first human-like AI virtual assistant and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our discussion on business growth and AI. Super excited to have you here, Kevin. Welcome and thanks for joining today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, James.
25 years in AI, that's, the majority of the world only kind of vaguely knew about AI from, sci-fi and the odd clip that you'll see on YouTube with Google and everything that is going on until literally like the rollout at the end of 2022 with ChatGPT and, just the mass awareness and explosion of AI since then. So, I mean, how do you even get started and get into AI 25 years ago?
Well, look, there's first of all, there's sort of two ways I like to look at AI. First are the absolute brilliant scientists and mathematicians and coders that are creating core models and new algorithms. So today it's foundational models, but it's been algorithms as well since the 1950s. And then there's people who take those and apply them to real world problems, right? And that work has been going on for more than 70 years on both sides, right? We've been doing that work since the 50s. And in fact, that's, the term artificial intelligence was coined that far back then. So we've had machine learning and AI since then in various ways. But any interface with AI required you to know Python or Lisp or a variety of other computer languages. And what happened is 2 years ago with ChatGPT, people could start to talk to computers in English and they'd speak back in English or Spanish or whatever language you wanted. This is fascinating because you don't have to be a coder all of a sudden to interact with the thing, right? That's what's the most fascinating about it. And that's why people all of a sudden woke up and said, wow, it's AI. But look, if you've been on Facebook, they've had AI facial recognition for more than 10 years. So it's not that it wasn't in our lives, it's that you weren't really exposed to it in a way that you thought about sort of that interface to AI. So it's just a great time sort of to be alive and be in the tech space and be able to apply now real natural language understanding and processing to our problems.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the biggest trends that you're seeing right now in AI in the space?
Well, some are good and some are probably a huge waste of money. There have been several thousand companies funded to apply AI to a variety of fields. 99% of those are not going to make it, but some will, and some will get very, very large. So we tend to overfund startups, certainly in the United States when we do this, and we overfund it to 1,000 more than it should be, 1,000x more than it should be. But there'll be some big winners in there that are game changing to their fields. I think another area is where people are not building moats and adding, real value to say a foundational model. They're doing something simple, and that just gets run over by the foundational model itself. But the big changes from a business perspective are we need to move from I'm playing with it. So I do 40 plus keynotes a year. And one of the first questions I ask is raise your hand if you've played with ChatGPT or something similar. Oh, everybody raises their hands. Raise your hand as if you're doing real work with it every day. Everybody puts their hand down. We'll say, okay, stop playing and start doing, right? This is a technology, and whether you use Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or Copilot, doesn't really matter. They're all excellent models. But this is technology that, if used right, changes the way you work every single day. And you're in the podcasting business here. You're doing a podcast. It changed over the last 2 years the way you work in a podcast, because this is going to be transcribed and summarized, and even the video can be automatically edited and snippets pulled out and social media pieces put in. And that can all be automatic now. It's like AI can do all that for you. This is a fascinating time. And this is true with everyone's job, whether it's finance, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales. Every aspect of every communication you have, every content creation, virtually every analysis that you do during the day, you can people don't realize. You can upload documents, you can upload Excel spreadsheets, you can upload Word docs, you can say rewrite it, analyze it, summarize it, fix it. I don't know what it means, tell me what it means. All of those are at your disposal, making you more than one brain. So James has had a one brain so far, but how'd you like to have 10 or 100 brains? And so when you start to actually do real work with these technologies, you find that many, 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 many hours are saved every single day.
Yeah, for sure. And it is incredible. It's rapidly, advancing. One of the biggest things I've done to really almost augment myself with with the various AIs is using the voice now, so you can just so quickly just give it all the context that you need to just build out whatever you want really quickly without being confined to just typing something. So
That's right.
it's pretty
Well, I could take, I'm working on a book, and I will, I'll often want to just hear it read to me, and I've cloned my voice, which took all of 15 seconds. And so I can have me read my book to me, and I can hear me reading it. It sounds exactly like me, and it works perfectly. Like I don't need to do that, but I can also do that on websites. I can do it on emails. I can do it on anything. And as long as there's text there, and that can be dynamic, right? My voice will say it. And in fact, in the next couple of weeks, I'll have a clone of me, an interactive clone, right? An interactive clone or interactive deepfake on my website, kevinsurace.com. And so people will be able to ask me questions, and I will be interacting. And in fact, I can take my clone and send it onto a Zoom call, literally can do this, and it will interact like me, listen, take notes, and come back and tell me, well, I was on another Zoom call. So I can literally duplicate or triplicate or triple me or whatever I want, right? Quad versions, 6 versions. It's a really fascinating time, and some people listening to this are just scared of what I just said. But this is the wave of the future. Is how do we make the people that are able to work, of which that's another conversation with most of the Western countries, the working population is going down, not up. People are retiring faster and they're coming into the workforce because the birth rate's gone down so much that, we're going to have to be more productive in order to grow our companies, or we won't be able to do it, right?
Yeah, and it was pretty mind blowing. Like the first time I started using voice AI, but I can't imagine how creepy it must have been. Like when you first started interacting with your own voice, that must have been pretty fun.
The first virtual assistant was I got to work on that, so I'm sort of known as the father of the virtual assistant. My team developed that at a company called General Magic in the mid to late 90s, and so 25 to 30 years ago, right? And the first time, her name was Mary, and the first time people interacted with Mary, they were blown away. It was like, I'm sorry, and this was over phone at the time. And you would talk to Mary, you'd call your number, and she'd answer. You say, "Hi, Kevin, how can I help you today?" Or someone else would call my number and say, "Hi, James, this is Mary, Kevin's virtual assistant. How can I help you today?" "Oh, you'd like to make an appointment with Kevin? Well, since you're one of his contacts, one of his trusted contacts, I'll be happy to do that for you. Here are the openings for you." By the way, we did that all in the 90s. That was more advanced than Siri is today, right? And so that was mind blowing to people when that happened. And then it was more than a decade. It was about more than a decade later that people then got Siri on their iPhones, and Siri licensed all the patents from General Magic to be able to do it. In fact, they basically replicated the what's called the Portico system, which was the father of all these things. And but they limited it. They didn't, they couldn't. She still can't read your email to you, which we were doing in the 90s. She could read your email to you, which I thought was a very fabulous feature when you're driving in the car, right? So I'll tell you, our vision at the time was that this technology would really move along rapidly. But what actually happened is it stagnated. So there was this jump in technology in the late 90s, and all of a sudden we have this virtual assistant. And then Google and Amazon and Apple licensed that technology and all those patents and basically left it right there. Did nothing with it for the better part of 20 years. Really, I mean, Alexa didn't get better, and Google Assistant didn't get better, and Siri didn't get better until the last year or so when they said, maybe we could change the model and make the underlying model an LLM and limit how it gives you feedback. But that was our vision, 25 plus years ago. And
Mm.
big companies sort of got a hold of it and said, that's not a money maker. We'll just leave it over there, and it's good enough. But now we're seeing finally some big changes, and there'll be more changes in Siri over this year in 2025. And I think that's exciting because that was our vision, that you'd have a real human-like virtual assistant that instead of paying $50 an hour to is something between $0 and $50 a month, right? That's valuable to humanity. It's valuable to everybody. So that's what you're getting, and this is going to be the year of agents. And so we're going to have our own agents. James will have his own agent, that Kevin will have his own agent that interacts with the people in my life and executes what I've asked him or her to do.
Yeah. I mean, it must have been quite fascinating to observe like such a long period of stagnation and then it just exploding now. Agents is a really interesting topic. How do you see, businesses maximizing growth through AI over the next year or so? You mentioned agents being, one big technology.
Yeah, look, I think that agents aren't going to come or work as well and as quickly as people think, because agents have to interact with other things in the outside world, whether it's websites or applications or other people or make calls or whatever. And those are hard things to do. I mean, we did all that back in the late 90s. I know how hard it is. I'm still working on an AI company today that finds bugs in software, so it interacts with applications. And it turns out interacting with applications when you're not an actual human is really, really hard, much harder than people think, because these applications were designed for humans, and the logic to get through them and actually the interaction that you have to get through them is just much more difficult than people think. And that's why there's very big, what's called RPA companies, right, that are billions of dollars, and all they basically do is interact with a bunch of applications. Turns out it's really hard to do. So I think everyone's underestimated that, and that's going to take some time. The second thing is, what do you do with an agent? Okay, clearly I can say, hey, check for tickets for this band and let me know when they're in my area. Okay, that's cool. By the way, we invented agents at General Magic also. That was the invention. The start of talking about software agents was General Magic. We even invented a language to build agents at the time. And we had envisioned these agents would go out and just sit there and do what you ask them to do and ping you or let you know when something's up and even act on that. Buy tickets if they're under this much for, whatever. Go book my airlines, things like this, right? But for people to trust an agent, what we have found is it's very hard and it takes a long time. So I'll give you an example. Study out of the UK just this week, tens of thousands of doctors not using AI as an assistant, then using AI as an assistant, okay? So basically, the AI is listening to what the patient says, and the AI is saying, hey, it could be these things. I think it's this. So listens to the symptoms. Here's what I think the cause is. Here's the treatment, right? So doctors without any AI are accurate 74% of the time in this study, which means they're wrong 26% of the time, by the way. Doctors leveraging AI next to them were right, were correct, right? 76% of the time, only 2% more with the AI. But had they just listened to the AI was right 92% of the time.
Wow.
But they didn't trust the AI enough. They trusted their own intuition. So the AI said, I think this person has worms in their blood, and you should treat it this way. And they're going, there's no chance of that. And it turns out they didn't know that they went to Nigeria 2 weeks ago and got worms in the blood, right? They have no idea. They didn't even think to ask. And so they're ignoring the AI, and they're not trusting the AI. They trusted it only 2% of the time rather than all of the time. And had they trusted the AI was right more than they were by a long shot. So what does that say about professionals trusting an AI agent on their behalf to just do their bidding? I think it's going to take a lot more time than people think. So there's all of this excitement around agents going out and talking to other agents and doing your work and coming back. And absolutely we're going to be there, and absolutely we're going to trust them, and it might take 4 years before we can really trust that the agent's going to go to it. I'll give you an example. James says to his agent, I'm not feeling well today. You conduct the interview with Kevin on the podcast today. And your agent comes and conducts the interview. Maybe, but in this particular case, at least it's not live. But let's say it was live. Would you really trust your agent to? No, you just cancel and do it another time or show up sick. I wouldn't trust that because God knows what it's going to say. Or if it goofs up, but and it's live, you can't edit it, right? You see the point. So when are you going to trust an agent to do that? Give me a few years.
Yeah. Well, that's a really interesting insight because that's more about you made the point about the technology with agents and the constraints with actually doing the interfacing, doing that stuff. But this is a human thing, the trust element, which is going to take time to adopt that trust, and
right.
It'll be a progressive situation. So
that's right.
That's a really interesting insight. What are the sort of or what contrarian views do you have around AI, moving forward?
So I'm not really a contrarian because here's the thing. AI is another technology in a long line of technologies, from the PC on your desktop to the internet itself, to the toaster long before that, to our smartphones, right? And every time one of these comes around, there's a whole set of contrarians. Oh, it's going to kill us, or oh, it's going to hurt us, or oh, it's bad for humanity, or oh, woe is me, right? And look, every technology, every single one since the invention of the wheel has also killed people. Cars can be used for good, and 99.999% of the time they are. And once in a while, someone turns the car into a bomb and runs it into a building. It's rare. It's once a year, but it does happen. So humans tend to want to point out, oh, here's all the dangers of this. And they tend to want to look at, say, AI and say, here's all the ways that it can be used against us. And it already is, right? Ransomware, bad actors are generating far more sophisticated phishing attacks, phishing emails that are penetrating, and they're generating or they're gathering the ability to hack MFA every day. So they hack your legacy MFA every day. All the MFA we use today is legacy, unless you're using token ring. That's it. Everything else is a legacy MFA. So there is a next generation MFA, and banks are moving to that very quickly. So of course AI is being used for these things, right? They're being used for those things every single day. But 99.999% of the time, we're using AI to enhance our life, to enhance our work life, to enhance our home life, to settle an argument with our spouse, to say the right things instead of the wrong things. Fabulous, right? This is fabulous, game-changing technology, like the smartphone was. It showed up and you go, within a week, this changed my life. It changed my life. I'm connected all the time. Now, is it good or bad that we're connected all the time? It's both good and bad, right? It's both good and bad. Because a smartphone ate into the rest of our day, and now we work all the way till we put our head on the pillow. Before that, there might have been a laptop at home. And before that, there wasn't even a laptop at home. There was no computer at home. You could not work once you got home. You left work at 5, you're home at 5:30. That's it. There's no work. There's nothing to work on. There's nothing to work with. You have to go back to the office, right? So all of these things have encroached on our lives. That's both good and bad. It's made us all more productive. And maybe it brings great joy and great excitement about our work, but the downside is it's eaten into our time. So every technology has pluses and minuses. AI does as well. But AI and Gen AI specifically and deep learning has changed the way humans can interface with each other, can generate content, can generate their own films, can generate new endings for films, can generate marketing content, blog posts, etc. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just quickly going back to agents, like when that technology does advance, that's going to really, I foresee, change the way we interface with computers, because you're going to have an agent that can go out and do things on computers instead of us just being in front of the screen all the time. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And the question is, when do we trust it? What will we trust it with? And I think we're going to trust agents at first for these simpler things. Like I have an agent right now that tells me at my other home, does it when it gets below 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It can't really goof that up. It can go out and check every hour, and it says it is below 10 degrees Fahrenheit, or it will not be below 10 degrees Fahrenheit today. Okay, that's easy. If it's wrong, if it goofs up, doesn't really matter. I'm not counting on it for anything, right? So we may trust our agents for that first before we say, agent, go check with the back office on the following things, come back, make a recommendation, and then in fact just execute it. Execute it like pay the bills, execute it. How about that? Is that what you want to do? Check my credit card statements each month, and if they seem reasonable, pay them. Maybe. I don't know. Is that good? Is it bad? We'll see, right? We'll see. Now, I do think all of this leads to something else that's interesting, because we're able to now train robots, humanoid robots, in a different way with reinforcement learning. And that means they can learn themselves, which we didn't have until 2024. The robots before that were hard-coded with a set of rules. So if you wanted to teach it how to make coffee, you didn't teach it. You had programmers write a set of rules on exactly how to manipulate the hand to get the thing, to put the amount of coffee in. It was articulated movement, right? Now you set it in front of a coffee maker, you show it how to make coffee, you walk away, it makes a mess for a few days, but by day 3, it's learned how to make coffee every single time, from every angle, from every viewpoint, right? And so now they can learn about the human world by themselves and build essentially neural nets about each of these tasks. That means between now and I think the end of the decade, we could have humanoid robots that are acting as our agents in our homes, cleaning and cooking, which is what people actually want. All they've ever wanted is something shows up and cleans, and I don't pay it very much. And it folds the laundry and does all the things that we all have to do as humans. So that is fascinating. And that technology is moving lightning speed. And some people say, Elon says there's going to be 30 or 40 billion robots by 2040. Far more robots, humanoid robots, than there are people. I think that's reasonable that we are going to start to rely on things that interface to the physical world, because an agent that's in your computer is interesting. It's interfacing with your software. An agent that is literally a robot next to you that can go and execute actual things in the physical world, that's pretty interesting. Please do the laundry today. No problem, Kevin. Okay, I want that thing, right? I don't know what it costs. I want one. It's going to cost less than having a human there 24/7. So let's do that, right? So those, I think we will learn to trust pretty quickly, because the value for us is tremendous. And what's the worst it can do? Wreck a shirt or something? Fine. Not the end of the world. So that's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. Absolutely. Yeah, as an entrepreneur, you've innovated a lot in AI. What would you say are like the big skills now and moving forward for entrepreneurs looking to really capitalize on this AI-driven era?
It's all about applied AI. And what I mean by that is you've got to know the field you're applying it to really, really well. I'll give you an example. Let's apply Gen AI to some kind of big machine that sits on a manufacturing floor that, puts certain kinds of parts together. I don't know. I'm just making this up, right? Mostly you have to know about that machine, how that machine is programmed, who it interfaces with, how you measure its output, what the yields are, etc. You need to know all about that. You need to know a little bit about Gen AI, but you need to know a lot about that. And then you can put the two together. So the depth of knowledge in your field is 90% of the game. My team at AppFance, one of my companies, they know a ton about how to test software. Probably among the best teams in the world that know the complexities of testing every little thing in a piece of software, whether it's web, mobile, desktop, whatever it is, right? So then they needed to learn a lot about AI, but they don't have to be absolute AI experts, because we're not creating brand new models. We are training models. We are tuning models. And then we are applying, upwards of 1 million lines of code to make those models work in our problem set, right? What's called applied AI. But they had to be experts first in the application over here before you could say, now how do I apply some of these techniques to this application set, to this problem, right? So if I was applying AI to jet engines, I need to know a lot about jet engines. And then I can bring a little bit of AI expertise in. But someone who knows a lot about AI can't do anything with a jet engine. They'll blow the thing up, right? They have no idea how the thing works. Does that make sense? So you need to be deep in your field and learn enough about AI and the APIs for AI and tuning models and all of that. And so so it's that kind of mix. It might be 10 people on the team that are deep in the field and one person who brings some AI or Gen AI experience.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, well, that was great, Kevin. I really appreciate your insights here. It was fascinating to listen to you. So I really appreciate it. Where can listeners find out more about you, learn more about you?
Yep, kevinsurace.com. That's my website, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, all perfect. It was great conversation. So thanks so much, and you enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks so much.
We'll speak soon.